Okay, so now that we've actually taken a bushing out, we're going to install a new bushing on it. I'm just going to use the same one for instructional purposes. But what you want to make sure of is this bushing is going in the correct direction. What I mean by that is sometimes bushings will have like a tapered edge to them. Some of them will actually have a shoulder sitting on the one end. So obviously that's where it needs to be driven down, and this would be your install side. This one is fairly flush all the way around, so it doesn't look like it matters as far as which direction we're going here. I'm just going to use which looks to be the skinnier side, which is closest to the camera here. So I'm actually going to be driving this down, and I'm just going to use the same adapter to do so. So release your jack, bring your pressure back in a way to where now I'm going to be able to get this back in here like so. I don't want it to go all the way up. I don't want to be sitting here all day pumping on it. Now, you also have to keep in mind that we need something on the bottom really allowing that force to be driven through the bushing and keeping this arm into place. So rather than trying to line this up again the way that we've had it, I'm just going to go straight to a flat spot to get it started. Once the bushing is started, and then at that point I can try to line it up, that is fine. But there's no point in trying to get all crazy. I'm not trying to line it up with a hole and I'm looking down here, and just scoot this over, scoot this over. Now I got a nice flat spot. I can bring my jack over in the middle. I have no hole anymore. I can't go anywhere. I'm gonna line this thing up, put my adapter on there. Again, I want this bushing as absolutely straight as possible. This is where it's very, very imperative that you are as straight up and down as possible. This is where things can go flying if you're doing it wrong. They also make nice adapters that can mate to this, to where you don't have to worry about using an adapter that's not attached, because essentially this is what goes flying. I'm not too worried about that today, simply because I am supposedly a trained professional. We're going to find out. So if I have that to where I believe it is as straight up and down as it needs to be, like I said, I just want to get this bushing started, so I'm not having to hold multiple pieces when I'm trying to line it up with a hole at the same time. You're going to know when you're done because it's not going to let you go any further. Watch your gauge up here. You'll start to build pressure, because right now you shouldn't have any. You should be going in nice and smooth. Alright, so now that I'm starting to build pressure, I'm going to release that. And now you can actually see I'm about flush. The problem is that I need it to be all the way to here. So I am going to have to line this up to where it goes through that hole again. So I'm going to slide this back, slide this back. Make sure that's about as lined up as it needs to be. Get my adapter back in there. Start working it down again. Not necessarily a perfect science. Okay, so you might have to be manipulating and changing angles a couple different times, and that's okay. This is going in pretty smooth, which tells me it's pretty darn lined up with that hole. If it wasn't lined up with the hole in the bottom, it would be binding right now. It would be creating a whole bunch of pressure and it wouldn't be going anywhere. But it is going in, so that tells me it's lined up. Now I'm going to cheat because this is the old bushing. I'm just using it for instructional purposes. I have a line here, so I know where to stop. Once you have it in where you think you need it to be, release your pressure, pull your adapter out, pull your control arm out. And just like that, I have a nicely pressed in bushing. I don't have any cracking, I don't have any marring, I don't have any damage of any kind around this control arm. So this puppy's ready to go back in. Now, it shouldn't necessarily matter as far as 360 direction of this bushing and how it gets installed. However, you can see on this one that there's really only support on this side and this side. There's no support on the top, and there's really no support on the bottom either. This guy can come right out, and it's not going to be supporting anything. Depending on the type of vehicle, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, depending on the kind of control arm, what you might want to consider, what you might want to look at is just in fact of where that support is. Because if this is mounted in a car like so versus like this, when you brake and accelerate, it might change the direction of the force being applied to this bushing. Keep in mind this is mounted to the actual wheel and then to the subframe. So what happens is as every time you brake, this thing's going to want to jounce. It wants to move back and forth, and this bushing is going to allow it to actually flex and then rebound and come right back where it's at. You know the bushing is bad when it doesn't rebound. Yeah, you can typically visually see a bad bushing because it's going to be cracked, it's going to be splitting, it's going to be blown apart. So every time you brake, you're going to get that almost like a stutter step in your pedal. That's typically a quick, easy indication that you have bad control arm bushings. Anytime you go to pull up to a brake light and you step on that brake pedal and it kind of gives you that type of feeling in your front wheels, that's typically a pretty clear indication that these bushings are bad. Simply get it in the air, use a flashlight. No matter what time of day it is, you typically need a flashlight, and you want to look at the bushing on the inside here. It will typically be all cracked, split, and coming apart. If that's the case, you need a new bushing. Most manufacturers are just going to sell you a whole arm. They're not that expensive. I do recommend just replacing the whole arm because then you know you get a new ball joint and everything. However, if a complete arm is not a possibility, this is that good scenario to where you can easily pop this bushing out and drop a new one in. It only took us a few minutes. Good luck to you.